to the Data Science Academy or DSA Seminar Series. Today's session will be given by Mark Powell from Muddy Boots. So Mark has over 15 years experience of working in software development. He's worked for Muddy Boots for over 20 years, and his current role in the company is Solutions Manager. So we're delighted to have Mark here today to speak to us about his current role in Muddy Boots. So without further ado, I'll now hand over to Mark.
Great, thanks, Padraig. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity as well to talk. And so hopefully everyone can see my screen share coming through. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about Muddy Boots, what we do, why we exist, and also some use cases that we have for AI within our product suite. And actually, I'll kind of cover a couple of projects that we ran with students from the uni last summer as well, just to give you an idea of the kind of things that we've been working on. So it's probably nice to start off with giving you a bit of background about myself. Padraig's kind of covered some of this as well already. So I head up data and analytics function at Muddy Boots, and I've been at the company for over 20 years with background in development and also product management. So I kind of more my focus is more on the kind of the technical side, I suppose, than the commercial side, and I've overseen implementation of some big software applications like Tableau and Snowflake. Not sure if you've come across those yet, but Tableau may be one that you've heard of, which is one of the kind of the leading business intelligence platforms. On the personal side, I live in Herefordshire, come from a farming family. And there's my family there. So that's my wife and my young boy, who was born in lockdown last year, and my two dogs, Humphrey and Billy, keep us entertained and active as well when we need, and make sure that we're getting out every day as well. So that's just a bit of a background to me, and then I'll talk a little bit about what Muddy Boots do as well. So this is a nice aerial photo of our office, which is also based in the Herefordshire countryside. So from the uni in Cardiff, it's probably about an hour and a half's drive to Herefordshire. We've also got a smaller satellite office in Bristol, which is also much easier commute from Cardiff as well. Probably half an hour or so by train. So our kind of roots are in the countryside and in rural landscape, and you're probably intrigued by the why we're called Muddy Boots. So I'll kind of talk a little bit about why we exist. So actually, I quite like to frame it in terms of what are the problems we're trying to solve. Is probably a good place to start. So I quite like this visual, which is showing the problem of food waste that we have globally. So this is actually showing where food waste occurs in supply chains around the world, and you can kind of see here the more advanced regions of the world here on the left hand side of the chart. There is a lot of food waste food waste taking place at the consumption phase. You can see over 50% of food waste occurs after the product has been bought from the supermarkets, whereas if we kind of go back into the less mature kind of regions of the world, you can see a lot more waste happens during the production phase. So that's where there's less advanced agricultural techniques taking place, and also less technology available as well. I can see there's a couple of questions. There's a question coming in. Why is North America and Oceania? Good question. I don't actually know, why that's in the same bar. I don't know why that's packaged together. So there's this kind of there is definitely an issue here in kind of food waste and how we can help reduce food waste. And if I kind of move on to the next slide, this is the reality of what the global challenge that we face by the year 2050. We will need 56% more food to be able to feed nearly 10 billion people. So we're going to need another 56% more food than we have today, but we're going to need to do that without having more land. So we won't be able to expand the agricultural footprint because that's already causing issues here. You can see with deforestation is already a problem today, and that can't continue. And also there are big kind of targets around lowering emissions as well, and reducing carbon footprints. So this is the kind of the problem we've got. Is we need to be able to have more food, but we've also got a big kind of food waste issue as well. So a lot of the technology we produce is around reducing food waste, but improving quality as well, and improving agricultural practices. So Muddy Boots, our kind of overarching vision is to become the world's most trusted agri-food technology partner. And I'll just talk a little bit about our kind of global presence. I kind of mentioned our roots are in the UK, but we do also have offices in Hamburg, in Melbourne, and also Vancouver. So we've got just over 100 staff spread across those 3 continents. We have over 15,000 users on our systems, so all of our applications are cloud-based, with mobile apps for data capture, and we're managing supply chain data from over 70,000 sites from 121 countries as well. So we've got a good kind of core data set of data kind of flowing through from grower right the way through to retailer, and these are just some of the companies that we work with as well. So our customers range from growers right the way down at the farm gate, through the supply chain to through suppliers and pack houses, right the way up to consumer goods and retail. So you'll probably recognise a lot of these names at the top of the screen. You can see a few kind of UK retailers. We're also Wendy's and Cisco are very big in the States. ShopRite are a South African retailer. Coles are the second largest retailer in Australia. So you can see we're doing quite a lot of work with at retail level around the world as well. So it means that we've got a very diverse user base, because we might be dealing with an individual farmer on one end of the day, and then the other end of the day we're talking to someone high up at Morrison's or something. So we kind of have to deal with all sorts of different challenges. So it does mean we've got different products that talk to each need through the supply chain. So these are our kind of main products that we've got that speak to each part of the supply chain. We start off at the grower level. We've got a grower management product, which is capturing data on field activity, with the aim of improving yields and growing practices at the farm level. We've got over 32 million acres of farmland captured on our platform as well. Across a lot of that is across Europe and North America. And then moving through the supply chain, we've got a quality management solution, which is where we are monitoring the quality of product as it goes through the supply chain, making sure that it's meeting specifications, tracking issues, so we can identify root cause of quality issues, and then we've got supplier management platform, which helps us identify where product is coming from as well. So we know as a retailer, we will know who is in our supply chains, which growers we're sourcing product from, and ensure that they are safe to supply and approved to supply, and they following sustainable agricultural practices. All these kind of things, we can kind of monitor that as the product goes through the supply chain. So that's a little bit about solutions as well. Might just pause there for a second, just in case there's any questions before I keep going. But if there are, just keep posting them in the chat. So what I wanted to do was then talk about some of the use cases for AI. So we've got dozens of different use cases for it within our product range, but I'm just going to talk about 3 that we have looked at over the last 12 months, and the first 2 are things that we've looked at with Cardiff Uni as well. So the first one I want to cover is the crop problem identification. So what this is, our farm management application is currently allowing agronomists. So an agronomist is like a crop doctor. It's allowing them to go out to the field, capture information about the health of the crop, and you can see here on the image they're taking a picture of the crop to show its health, but through that we'll be identifying if there's any weeds, if there's any pests, if there's any diseases in the crop as well. So you can see in this diagram down the bottom, this is just showing where we've captured some issues. So we might have captured a particular weed, and we've tagged a severity against that, but we've also got an image. So we've got quite a large database of these images, and we wanted to explore whether we could automatically identify problems in the future from these previous images that we'd captured. So that was the kind of the target that we had when we started this particular project. So we started kind of narrowing down the use case, and for the project we looked at berries. So we looked at blackberries, raspberries and strawberries, and we picked out the top 5 kind of pests and diseases that were found in those crops. And the initial model that was built came out at around about 50% accuracy. So we kind of had a lot of problems around, I guess, data quality, and the cleanliness of the data was one of the initial hurdles we had to overcome. A lot of things were maybe either tagged incorrectly, or maybe the image wasn't zoomed in enough on the actual problem. It was kind of a bit too broad. So we had quite a few issues around kind of cleaning the data. So what the next kind of phase that the student went through on this particular project was to kind of enrich the data set by firstly augmenting that data with another data source that was found online. So we got further images of pest problems, added that into our data source, and then we took the images that we had and manipulated them. So we would flip the image, crop the image, create a grayscale version of that image as well, just to kind of build up a bigger data set to work from. That got us then up to a model accuracy around about 65%. So it's starting to get closer to something that would be a bit more valuable. I think that's probably as far as we got with that particular project. We've kind of then decided that we need to improve the quality of data that we're capturing in the first place. So we need to make a few changes in our product to make sure we're capturing better quality images to enable this kind of model in the future as well. Okay, so
I've got a quick question there, Mark.
Yep.
Just so you say 65% you got to in terms of accuracy. what type of accuracy do you think you need to get to for this to be, let's say, a viable or a useful tool?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's hard to know, hard to kind of set a specific number. I think we've got to test this out with users and actually get their confidence that it's working is probably a better measure. So that would be what we would aim for, is to actually get it to I think 65% is probably at a point where we could actually do a proof of concept with users. 50% is probably still too much ambiguity, and actually they could probably randomly pick something and not far off. So so I think 65% is probably closer to having something we could run a proof of concept with. We'd probably want at least 70%, I think, for it to be a productionized model. And I guess what we're talking about here is that these aren't. This is only to guide users, so it's not kind of business critical, this prediction. There'll be certain predictions you need to make that need to be much higher accuracy. This is more just a guide to say, when you've taken an image, you're telling them, or you're informing the user, it could be this problem or it could be this problem, and it almost kind of helps guide them, but it doesn't matter if we do get it slightly wrong, I suppose. So it doesn't need to be kind of 90% accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I'll move on to another use case that we looked at with the university last year. So this one was looking at how we can predict the shelf life of apples. And by shelf life, we are referring to when you buy a bag of apples, you'll see a best before date on that bag. And we are measuring whether the product is still fit for consumption on that date or not, effectively. So we know whether it's actually still good at that point, or whether it's falling short of its shelf life. So this is probably a clearer kind of food waste issue, where if product is degrading before its shelf life, it can cause product to be thrown away too early, or even if product outlives its shelf life, consumers might still look at the date on the label, and they might still be throwing product away even though it's still perfectly good to use as well. So that date is quite a key thing that's on the label. So we were initially looking to identify where we have a shortfall in shelf life. If we can predict that earlier on in the process, it allows us to make key decisions that will avoid that ending up as waste. So for instance, we might fast track the product through. We might be able to put a shorter date code on the product to ensure that it actually gets purchased and consumed before it gets to end of life as well. So that's what we kind of started off at with our goal. The model that we worked on started to pick out some really insightful outputs around feature importance. Was a really good one. So these are, we had the model was made up, I think, of 50 different features. You can see here, these are just the ranked features around what impacts the shelf life of apples. You can see here that the variety is the number one thing. If it's a Royal Gala or a Braeburn or a Granny Smith, that has a big impact. The packaging type can be have another impact. So whether it's in bags, is it in a cardboard punnet, or is it in a loose as well, could be another thing. So how it's packaged is the subtype is the kind of the storage regime. So is it stored at room temperature, or is it stored in a fridge? That can impact it. The size of the fruit, where it comes from, so who the supplier is as well. So you can kind of see what all the things are that impact the shelf life. So this on its own was actually quite insightful data start sharing with our customers. But then what we actually had as an output from this particular model was that we were starting to be able to predict within 24 hours of the actual shelf life over 90% of the time. So we can actually, you can kind of see here down the bottom left, it's giving us a chart of each individual batch of apples. The purple sections are showing where we did a slight over prediction, and the green is showing where we've done a slight under prediction. So you can kind of see that we were quite close because we were kind of matching a lot of these variances, a lot of the ups and downs we were quite close on. So we actually got to a really good point with this particular model, and you can kind of see this chart showing the degree of accuracy, degree of error from between actual and predicted as well. So you can see that most of it is here within this 0, -1 to +1 range as well. So we've ended up with a really strong, accurate model in this scenario. And this is one that.
Sorry, Mark. What are the units on that x-axis? They're hours, is it, or
no, days?
Days. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Days. So yes, that's you can kind of see +5 and -5. Yeah. It was almost everything, but yes, that's in days. So we've got a model that we're looking to move forward with a couple of customers on that this year, and actually we're even looking at how they can drive the best before date printed on the labels from this model as well. So today the best before date is almost a fixed date. So it will be, for instance, as soon as the product arrives at the retailer, the best before date might be 14 days from that date, and that's a fixed thing no matter the season where it's coming from. But now we're looking at that, making that data driven based on what this prediction is telling us. So that's so the last use case I want to cover is, so this is one that we haven't, it's not one we've done through university, but this is one we've done internally, and this is looking at label check contents recognition. So what we mean by that is on your pack of produce, they all have a label on them that's giving us some key information around the best before date, the product, the country of origin, the weight. And there's a big problem in the produce industry around incorrect labeling. So for instance, I'll give a few examples of the type of errors that occur. That you can see this date code here is the 30th of November. If they're packing product for, say, the 1st of December, what quite often happens is they change the date over to the 1st, but forget to change the month. So it'll go back to the 1st of November. And then as that product goes through, it's already showing as being out of date, even though it's still got another month, or it's a month behind. If another issue that might occur is you have a label with a Union Jack flag on it, so it might have a some kind of British branding on it, but it says that the country of origin is South Africa. So that again is another big issue. And barcoding is another problem. So an incorrect barcode on the product could lead to it being scanned as the wrong product. So we heard of a example last week where someone was packing asparagus. They put one of these digits was wrong on the barcode. When it got scanned out at the checkout, it came through as a duvet, and so it kind of came up as though it was 30 pounds of asparagus. And so you can see that these cause really big problems if the labels are incorrect. So we've estimated there's about £50 million of waste every year in the UK just because of incorrect labeling, and that's almost like, this is kind of the worst kind of waste, really, because the product itself is fit for purpose and it's fit for consumption, but it's just been there's been a process error, which means that the product's been incorrectly labeled. So we're looking at how we can identify these contents and validate that they are correct. So our model, I'll just kind of go through the stages that the model follows at the moment. So this is our kind of raw label that we've taken the image of. Initially, we're just picking up every single bit of text from that label. And then we're looking to process that. So we start getting that text and formatting it. So we kind of start separating it out. So we can see here that the product mix berries. We can see we've got a date code in here somewhere. There's we've got the product, the country of origin, but this data hasn't been categorized yet at this stage. We're just starting to kind of process the dates, sorry, the text. And then the final step is to match that to a dictionary which categorizes the data. So you can kind of see what we start to get out of that at the end. So you can see this was actually a particularly kind of difficult one to handle because it was a mixed product. So we had to identify where there was 2 subproducts, 2 different countries of origin as well. Where we're looking to take this forward is to identify, is the product behind the label actually the correct product? So they haven't put a blueberries label on top of a pack of asparagus, for instance. Also identifying when there's a promotional sticker on there as well. So if they put a buy one get one free or something like that, is there a promotional sticker on there or not? Because that's that could be another problem when those have been incorrectly put in place. So this is one that we've kind of started to build the model, and we've actually got 100% accuracy around this with the initial sample. Next phase is that we're actually going to start integrating this into our phone application so that people can actually take pictures off their phone, validate that the labels are correct.
So that's 100% accuracy with respect to the kind of the text spotting, that you're able to extract the text.
That's
completely
correct.
Accurate. Okay, but linking it to the database and stuff like that's probably something else, is it?
That's the next thing really, is to make sure that we've got the dictionary data to map to. So off a small sample set of known dictionary data, it's fine, but we've got to now build up that dictionary data of what are all of the acceptable products, all the acceptable varieties, countries of origin, building up all of that dictionary data that we can start to match against as well. So in this scenario, this is where we need to get a model that is either 100% or very close to 100% accurate, because anything that kind of slips through the net here that we don't pick up can result in kind of very costly fines further down the process. So a supplier can be fined up to can be fined tens of thousands of pounds for one of these issues that gets through the process. So it's a very costly one if it gets through. So this one is where we do need to make sure that the model accuracy is very high.
And Mark, are you aiming to get this working for sort of lots of different retailers then? I mean, obviously that example is for Tesco, but or would it cause problems for you if, you know, say Tesco sort of updates its branding and its styles and all of this? Would that cause problems for your software?
Yeah, so we are looking to make that work across any retailer. There will be restrictions around the types of products it will detect. At the moment, we're just looking at products that's on a flat label. So you can see here, this is just a punneted product. If it was a label that was stuck on, say, on a butternut squash or something that's round, we're not looking to detect those kind of labels yet, because they could be kind of crinkled up a bit, or they're not flat. But anything that's a flat label, yeah, we're not kind of restricting the retailers that we're looking to support there. Okay, I think that's all I was planning to cover, and we've pretty much used up a half-hour slot as well. But yeah, are there any other questions?
Yeah, don't worry about the time. We actually can continue on up until the end of the hour if necessary. But I've got I've got a quick question. Just somebody's put one in the chat, but I'll ask my one first. Let's say. So you seem to be exclusively focusing on crop farming, but have you considered other types of farming? For example, are you doing anything in the space of beef farming?
Well, funnily enough, we've only just started exploring that this year. So didn't really mention kind of early on. If I just go back a slide, you can kind of see we're actually part of a bigger organization called Telus Agriculture. If there's any, I don't know if you have any Canadian students, but they will know the name Telus, they're a big telecommunications company based in Canada. They've set up an agriculture arm, which we're part of, and through that we're actually starting to look at livestock farming in North America as well. So looking at the chain of custody is one of the key things we're looking at there, around whether does the beef originate from the source that it says it's from. So if you're buying British beef or you're buying Aberdeen Angus, is it actually that product, and having systems in place to prove its chain of custody as well.
Yeah, so there's we have some colleagues in Cardiff University who are doing kind of similar type of tracing the source of, but not looking at beef. They're looking at coffee and tracing where the coffee came from.
And what sort of technologies are they using for that?
I think they're using blockchain. I think they're using to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I can drop you a link later, maybe with the individual.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So yeah, there is a bit of blockchain being used for this kind of use case. I've heard of it being used in coffee before, actually. So yeah, I think that's been proven to be a kind of an area where there's a lot of issues because it comes from very small kind of growing areas as well. So it's quite difficult to trace back to source. But yeah, that's something of interest as well, for sure.
So there are a couple of questions in the chat. So the first question is, who is the user of these AI ML cases? So who are your customers, let's say?
Yeah, so I guess if I
users, I guess.
Yeah, what we're looking to do is track these at the earliest point possible in the process. So for the shelf life and this label check process, we're actually looking at the suppliers who are packing this product, because we want to identify that issue straight away. We don't want to identify that issue when it's in a store, because by the time it's got to store, you've got all of that cost that's been added to it. It's had to be packed, it's transported to store, it's all that handling cost. So we want to remove all of that cost. We want to capture all of these issues as early as possible. So we're really targeting those kind of suppliers who are handling the product, or even the growers. So if it's something down at the farm gate level as well, it's the growers themselves. Those are our kind of primary users for these.
Okay. So Robert has posted a question: do you accept applications from international students? So I'm not sure if this is what applications respect to what, but I will mention that if you're an MSc student this year, Muddy Boots have a project submitted as a summer dissertation project. So if you're interested in doing your summer dissertation project with Muddy Boots, that's open to all current MSc students. So yes, but have you got anything else if you're accepting any applications from international students, I guess, for positions when they graduate, Mark?
Well, so I suppose the students that we had last year, one of them was overseas. I think one was based in Saudi Arabia, actually, for the duration of the project. So it was all run completely remotely. We're using Teams, so we're all working remotely. So actually, it doesn't really matter where people are based. It's more of a time zone thing, I suppose. It can be a bit of a limitation. So yeah, there's no restriction in terms of where people are based. In terms of kind of actual vacancies and positions, there's no plans to expand our analytics team this year, but there are other areas of our business where we are expanding. So yeah, all of the vacancies are on our website as well. But yeah, I think if we were to expand the analytics team, because of the link we've got with Cardiff University, then that's one of the places that we would look to kind of advertise as well, so that we can promote that to the students as well.
And I'd also add that the MSc project that you have, we'll be advertising that internally internally to our MSc students shortly. Okay, so what are the main machine learning skills and knowledge required for these types of projects?
That's a good question, because I'm not sure what kind of techniques you kind of cover as part of the course. So machine learning skills that you're covering, are they mostly within the artificial intelligence program, or you're covering those within there's another data analytics one, isn't there?
Yeah, so we cover a range of stuff. So we cover a lot of classical ML techniques, but also more modern machine learning techniques like deep learning. So I think the type of skills the students or current MSc students have, I think they'd be more than qualified to do types of projects that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In terms of the use case that we've got for this year, I think we actually need to change it as well. So I think we posted one. There is going to be an opportunity, but it needs to be slightly different use case to what we'd previously published. So I do need to actually update you on that over the next few days.
Get in touch with us. We haven't advertised it to students yet, so if you just get in touch with us and we change it before we advertise it to the students.
Okay. So the use case we're looking at for this year, I can probably give you a bit of a snapshot into what it is. That's around we monitor the temperature of product through the supply chain. So while it's in transit, we are monitoring product temperature because we know that if product goes over its tolerance, so if it gets too warm in transit, that will cause the product to degrade faster. So certain products are very sensitive to that. So if it was a pack of berries, if it went a couple of degrees over its threshold, it would start to deteriorate much quicker as well. So what we're wanting to do is run a project to understand what the impact is of that high temperature or low temperature. And in certain products, this isn't just a food quality issue, it's also a food safety issue, because the produce can actually be dangerous to consume in certain scenarios, depending on the type of temperature issues that occur. So that's what we're looking at as the basis for the project for this year.
So somebody has asked about the types of skills required to do this project. Are you planning a machine learning based solution to this problem?
Yes, okay. Yeah, it would be very, very similar kind of skills that would have been used for the shelf life prediction project. Yeah, so kind of basic, fairly basic machine learning skills, but part of that will also be around the data cleansing as well. So we kind of recognize that we've got lots of data, but it definitely needs to be cleaned and shaped as well before we can start running models over it as well. So there's someone asking about if they haven't got to machine learning yet.
Yeah, so some of our we've got a wide array of MSc programs. So some programs would study more machine learning than other programs. So I think, yeah, this project would require, if you haven't got a background in or haven't done some modules or courses in machine learning or AI, I don't think it would be a suitable project, because the learning curve will be too much for the student.
Yeah, okay. So don't know if there's any other questions. I've got my email address there and our website as well. If you're interested to go and find out a bit more about Muddy Boots, you can have a look on our website. You can email me if you've got any questions, or just connect on LinkedIn or anything. That's fine.
So are there any further questions from anybody? If not, we can bring this session to an end. But before I do, I'd just like to thank Mark again for a really interesting talk. And I look forward to working with you this year again, Mark, like we did work together last year on that project.